The glitz and glamour of Hollywood have always captivated audiences, and none more so than its child stars. Among them, few captured the hearts of millions quite like baby Peggy. She was a true trailblazer, a talented and precocious performer who rose to fame in the silent film era. But behind the dazzling lights and adoring fans lay a darker reality. Baby Peggy's life was marred by exploitation, financial ruin, and personal tragedy, leaving her with a legacy that is as heartbreaking as it is legendary. In this video, we will explore the incredible rise and devastating fall of Hollywood's most iconic child star, Baby Peggy. When Peggy was just 19 months old, she visited Century Studios on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood with her mother and a film extra friend. Her father, Jack, who had previously worked as a cowboy and park ranger, had done stunt work and served as a stand-in for Tom Mix in several of his cowboy movies. It was at Century Studios that Peggy was discovered. Director Fred Fishback was impressed by Peggy's well-behaved demeanor and willingness to follow directions from her father. He hired her to appear in a series of short films with Century's canine star Brownie the Wonder Dog. The first film, Playmates, in 1921, was a smashing success, and Peggy's career skyrocketed. She was signed to a long-term contract with Century, and her star power only grew from there. Once Baby Peggy burst onto the Hollywood scene, there was no stopping her. Between 1921 and 1924, she starred in nearly 150 short comedy films for Century Studios. Her movies often spoofed full-length motion pictures, social issues, and stars of the era. In one film, Peggo the Movies, she satirized both Rudolph Valentino and Pola Negri. She also appeared in film adaptations of novels and fairy tales such as Hansel and Gretel and Jack and the Beanstalk, as well as contemporary comedies and a few full-length motion pictures. In 1923, Peggy made the move to Universal Studios, where she began appearing in full-length dramatic films. Among her works from this era were The Darling of New York, directed by King Baggett, and the first screen adaptation of Captain January. Her Universal films were produced and marketed as Universal Jewels, the studio's most prestigious and expensive classification. During this time, Peggy also starred in Helen's Babies opposite Clara Bow. Thanks to the success of the Baby Peggy films, Peggy quickly rose to prominence. When she wasn't filming, she embarked on extensive in-person personal appearance tours across the country to promote her movies. Her likeness appeared on magazine covers and was used in advertisements for various businesses and charitable campaigns. She was also featured in several short skits on major stages in Los Angeles and New York City, including Grauman's $1 Million Theater and the Hippodrome. Once Baby Peggy reached the age of 5, she had already established a significant presence in Hollywood. She had her own line of merchandise, including dolls, jewelry, and even milk, all bearing her likeness. Judy Garland was among those who owned a Baby Peggy doll, and Cary would later become friends with Garland. However, Cary noted in her autobiography that she believed Garland's mother sought fame for her children based on Baby Peggy's success. As a child star, Peggy earned an impressive salary while under contract with Century and Universal Studios. By 1923, she was making $1.5 million a year at Universal, and she earned $300 per day during her vaudeville tours. However, Peggy's parents were responsible for managing her finances, and they spent her money recklessly on expensive homes and clothing. Unfortunately, they did not set aside any money for Peggy's education or future welfare. Peggy was only paid a nickel for every vaudeville performance. Her entire fortune was lost due to her father's corrupt business partners and reckless spending, leaving Peggy with nothing before she even reached puberty. When fellow child star Jackie Coogan sued his parents in 1938, Peggy's parents asked her if she would do the same. However, Peggy did not believe it would make a difference and thus did not pursue legal action. Fortunately, the experiences of child stars like Peggy and Coogan eventually led to the Coogan Act, which aimed to protect child actors' earnings. However, Peggy's working conditions were far from glamorous. In later interviews and her autobiography, she described how she worked 8 hours a day, 6 days a week as a toddler. Despite being so young, Peggy was expected to perform her own stunts, such as being held underwater in the ocean until she fainted, escaping alone from a burning room and riding underneath a train car. She even witnessed instances of animal cruelty and saw a trainer crushed to death by an elephant while working at Century. Peggy's education was also impacted by her career. Both Peggy and her sister Louise did not attend school until the end of the vaudeville era, and their schooling was sporadic at best. They had to work to pay for their tuition at Lawler Professional School, which offered flexible schedules that allowed them to continue performing in films. Unfortunately, Peggy's father controlled her career and made every decision about her contracts. Mr. Montgomery claimed that Peggy's success was based not on her own talent, but on her ability to follow orders unquestioningly. Baby Peggy's film career came to an abrupt end in 1925 due to a dispute between her father and producer Sol Lesser over her salary. Her father canceled her contract, and this resulted in her essentially being blacklisted. She was only able to land one more role in silent films, a minor part in the 1926 picture April Fool. However, from 1925 to 1929, Peggy found success as a vaudeville performer. Although her routine, which included a comedy sketch, singing, and dramatic monologue, was initially met with skepticism, it soon became popular and respected. Even though she was too young to perform at the Palace, Peggy appeared there as a special guest. Peggy and her family traveled across the United States and Canada, performing in major venues until they grew tired of touring. Despite being frequently ill with tonsillitis and other ailments while on the vaudeville circuit, Peggy continued working. In her book, Whatever Happened to Baby Peggy, she wrote that she had gone on stage so sick that they had to put buckets in the wings. She had thrown up in one before her entrance and in the second after her exit, before changing and going back out for her encore. Her mother was worried about her health, which was another reason why they left the strenuous life of touring. Once Peggy's film career ended due to a dispute over her salary, her parents continued to spend extravagantly. They spent most of the $2 million Peggy earned on unnecessary luxuries. Her father planned to buy a ranch and convert it into a high-end getaway, but the stock market crash of 1929 shattered his plans. As a result, Peggy's family had to sell their home in Beverly Hills and move to rural Wyoming, where they lived near the Jelm Mountains. Peggy found the slower pace of life refreshing and hoped that her stage days were over. However, the family struggled to make ends meet, and they eventually returned to Hollywood in the early 1930s. Despite her hopes of leaving the entertainment industry behind, Peggy found herself working as an extra in films. She was paid only $3 a day, and many of the other extras were former silent film stars that she grew up with. They collectively considered their work to be like that of galley slaves. Peggy posed for publicity photos with Douglas Fairbanks Sr. and signed with a new manager in hopes of making a comeback. However, rumors of a bad screen test that had never taken place dashed her hopes. The family even had to resort to using food coupons from the Motion Picture Relief Fund. However, the Los Angeles School Board insisted that Peggy go to school, so she was enrolled at Lawler Professional School, a unique institution that offered flexible hours for child actors. While attending Lawler, Peggy had the privilege of being classmates with Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland. Unfortunately, her family was also forced to take extra work to make ends meet. Despite her opportunities to perform as a child actor, Peggy despised screen work and retired after her appearance in the film Having Wonderful Time in 1938. The same year, she married Gordon Ayers and later adopted the name Diana Ayers to distance herself from her Baby Peggy persona. As she began writing for radio shows, she found that people were more interested in her Baby Peggy image than her writing abilities, so she changed her name to Diana Serra Cary. By the spring of 1940, Peggy's career had taken a turn for the worse, and she and her husband were living in a small furnished room in New York City. Their financial situation was dire, and they were surviving on a diet of only donuts. Gordon Ayers worked as a bartender while Peggy struggled to find a screen job. After leaving the entertainment industry, she worked in various jobs such as a switchboard operator, bookstore clerk, and gift shop manager before discovering her talent for freelance writing. Despite facing emotional struggles and ridicule from Hollywood insiders and the media for her Baby Peggy past, the woman eventually made peace with it. She became a successful publisher, historian, and author, writing about Hollywood subjects and even penning an autobiography about her life as a child star called Whatever Happens to Baby Peggy, the autobiography of Hollywood's pioneer child star. She also wrote a biography about her contemporary and rival Jackie Coogan titled The World's Boy King, a biography of Hollywood's legendary child star. As an adult, the woman dedicated her work to shedding light on the early film industry, the harsh working conditions faced by child stars, and Hollywood cowboys. In her autobiography, she shared the fates of other child stars, including Judy Garland and Shirley Temple. The woman also appeared in several television documentaries and interviews about her work and made guest appearances at silent film festivals. Despite her successful career, the woman's life eventually came to an end. On February 24, 2020, at the age of 101, she passed away peacefully in her home in Gustine. Goodbye and rest in peace, baby Peggy.